Welcome to the Wavelength podcast. Today, I have an incredibly special guest, my brother, Jesse Budzinski. He's 5 years older than me. There's 3 girls between us, a family of 5. I can't tell you how passionately excited I am for this episode because of the role my brother's played in my life, the inspiration, the transformation, and the connection that we have. Let's jump right into the conversation. Jesse, what's up, dude? Let's go.
Inspiring, man. Here with little bro. You grew up and here we are, wavelengthing it up.
It's crazy,
It's
dude.
cool.
It's so cool to have you in LA, and we've got a lot of amazing content that I want to cover. But at the end of the day, I think we'll just get into a flow here. I'd love for people to understand, well, one, you play a lot of roles in a lot of people's lives. I think you are the most influential person across the people that you're across. I don't know anyone that has as many people that love you, want your approval, want your wisdom, want to be connected with you. You've made hard choices, lots of hard choices. Catch everybody up though, just who you are, how you are, what you are today.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, me and you were just we took a little bit of time. We're celebrating. I turned 40, crossed that decade mark. And I think one of the things you just said is I think at 40, I was reflecting the currency that I've really stored wealth in has been relationships. I value relationships. I value friendship. I value it across whether it's my workplace, whether it's my marriage, whether it's my siblings or other friends, my community, whether it's church or just locally coaching. We really value relationships. So I think that's been something I really have done, over my lifetime, and I continue wanting to double down. But yes, a little bit about me. I'm married 15 years now. I got 4 amazing kids. They are 12-year-old daughter, 9-year-old daughter, 6-year-old daughter, 5-year-old son. He's coming into his own. He's making up for all the women in my house. He's matching up well with little Brooks, and they're all super involved. So that's the family life. As you know, at work then, I work for Amazon, specifically Amazon Web Services. Really, I'm a cloud evangelist. Whoa, that's crazy. What does that mean? It's helping customers, specifically digitizing their businesses. How do they do things faster? We're hearing about Gen AI. We're hearing about how do they go to market quicker? How do they release technology throughout their whole life cycle? So I do that specifically. Now I find myself in automotive, and I've been going to Europe, helping a specific customer in Stellantis, which is the old kind of Chrysler Fiat. So that's that. On the home front, super involved in my community, coaching, church, helping men throughout the week. And that's kind of some of my passions and where I find myself in life right now.
And so I think one of the things is life takes a different frame that we have to create of a different vision that we're trying to pull through. We talk about success. We talk about purpose a lot. You have all these disciplines, and you've had to re-engage disciplines to make sure your mind and your body are getting you to a place that is the redefinition of success and purpose for you. How do you define that now, and talk a little bit about how you create the framework for that so that you make sure you're hitting those new outcomes that you're creating for that?
Yeah, I think some of the things me and you have talked about is in our past, and what I talk about with a lot of people is that like formation matters. Meaning like how you show up. And, I think some people, there's a lot going on in discipline out in social media and different things, but like discipline is getting clear on what you want, not doing what you don't want. So I think so many people have this misconception of discipline, but it's actually getting clear on what you want, right? I always say discipline is the product of clarity, not, force. And so I think that for me, it's been like
that's killer.
My brother-in-law, our brother-in-law Gabe, right? He said, I can remember a specific message he was sharing some years ago, and he said, start at the end. And an Amazonian principle that we use is work backwards. And Gabe said, go to your funeral, hear the conversations that are occurring with you about you. What are people saying? What do you want to be said? And actually, you control that now. And so, again, discipline is getting clear on what you want.
Discipline is getting clear on what you want.
Not forcing yourself to do things that other people want you to do.
Right.
And so for me, it's been working backwards, understanding that I want to be a father, I want to be a husband, I want to be a great friend, I want to be a great brother, I want to be a leader at work, I want to do the right thing, I want to hear, and then saying the formation or how I show up matters. And so preparing for that and being very, the word me and you have talked about, authentic and intentional about that in every relationship and every, every situation has been really helpful for me in my season of life.
It's interesting how many people have disciplines that are things that are not intentional for them. They're just things that other people are doing right now in the social construct of their community. And it's less meaningful. It's almost meaningless. So when you have the discipline, like last night, I see you like, you go into your notes and you're like checking things off. I did this, I did that, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It's not just the rigidity of having goals and doing that. Those are all a part of a thing that when you looked at this year, you're like, I can't keep doing this year if I want that.
Correct.
If I want these outcomes. And as you have 4 kids now, you have a marriage, you've got commitments, it's very hard to do it all.
Correct.
And I was trying to do it all last year. Last year was one of my hardest years for a while because I kept stumbling into, I'm trying to get these outcomes, but I didn't have the disciplines to actually reinforce them. So there's no way I could have had the mental peace that I have this year. I have way more mental peace instituting some of these things that we've talked about that are just transforming.
Yeah. And I think while performance matters, improvement is better. Mm-hmm. And I think that in a society that's driven by metrics and measurements and outcomes, I think that we don't give ourselves enough grace, which then means we don't give others grace to do these things. And I think that, improvement matters, but then being honest with yourself matters. I think we've all become so disillusioned by living through so many different lenses. Like I can display to you one thing and then I can go and live another way. And so you talking about being honest with yourself, one of my kind of core competencies has been like, measure what you said you were going to do. Like if you were going to do it, do what you say. Because I think as you get older and you realize, like in my workplace at Amazon, like we are fierce about saying, these are the goals and this is what we did to attain them. Like that's
or this is why we missed it.
And this is why we missed it. And did we improve?
But was there, yeah, exactly. Was there progress? And you've got such a great maturity around the roles and all the roles that you manage. And okay, when certain things kind of fall through the cracks, talk about how you manage those roles and how you create a forgiveness for yourself when you can't meet every single person's, expectations of you.
I think that it's again, I think it's really about being authentic to who you are. Right. And so I think it's coming down to, what do people depend on you to be for them? And it's like, okay, so, in a marriage, you have, that's a certain role. And so I think we start off very genuine when we get a new job, when we get married or when we have a kid. And at some point, we get pulled in the direction that we think others want us, or just to kind of check the box, and it becomes unauthentic. Because
you always say that these are these are J Bud lines, right? I always say there's things that like some of the top mentors in my life have said that ring loud. You used to always say, it's really hard to be yourself.
Yeah.
Just double down on being you. Don't be all like, you can focus on the weaknesses, but what are the strengths? Focus on you.
Yeah.
That's the hard, authentic truth.
And again, like, I mean, a biblical reference, right, is that childlike faith, the first love. And again, I think it goes back to like being like that, when we said I do to our wives, right? Like there was a real connection there. We weren't faking it. And I think that life comes and circumstances come and emotion comes and it pushes you out of that original spot. Same with our children, same with our workplace. Like we took that job most of the time more than just to make money.
Right.
We took a job because we were passionate about it. We wanted to make our mark. We wanted to change an industry. We wanted to add innovation. And I think that sometimes you can lose your way on that in the day to day. And I think for me, how do I do those roles is again, coming back, measuring the things that I really wanted to make an impact on, kind of cracking off the cynicism
Yeah,
right?
it's so easy to be cynical.
It's so
And
easy.
that's going back to the childlike faith thing. Like, to be like a child, kids just believe anything is possible.
Correct.
They don't ask all the questions. They don't measure. They don't evaluate. They don't talk a little bit about, so you're bringing a biblical reference in. You're very grounded in your faith. You're very grounded and have a faith. It's core to who you are. Why and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, something I've really kind of toned in just to kind of cross all people's faith and religions, and I deal with a lot of different things in a global role at Amazon, is that, there's a natural order to things. Okay.
Mhm.
I think that just to start at a very high level, like there are things that happen and X plus Y gets Z, right? Like that
Mhm.
is just a natural order. And you can have whatever perspective you want of things. But, I believe that people, all humans across all these different countries, are genuinely looking to understand how they plug into the bigger picture. And it's
Right.
not flesh and blood. It's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
It's a eternity placed in all of us.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, it's to understand that all people are created in the image of God, that he has a purpose and a unique and individual plan for every single human, no matter if they agree with you or if they don't agree with you. And
Mhm.
so I think that that perspective gives you what is the currency of eternity, which is love.
Mhm.
And I've learned this over time. I used to have so much rigor and discipline and judge people, and if they didn't think like me, and working at Amazon and traveling the globe and seeing different communities.
You've evolved so much.
Yeah, you just learn that like you actually don't have it all figured out. I
Right.
mean, I let's just bring up mine and your friendship. I mean, we can talk about some of our defining conversations, but I remember a conversation that we had, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And you said, you know what I really need from you? I need you just to hear me, to love me, to like have a safe place. Like, I actually don't need you to change me. And I was like, dang, that's good.
Yeah.
And, that was one of many experiences that we had where I don't think we were actually getting along. And I think I was loving you the way I thought I would love you, which was like, I'm going to change him and teach you a lesson, little
But
brother.
I think it was coming from a good place.
It
was like,
was.
I have a perspective. Yeah.
But it was about you also giving me the feedback on like, what would actually help me grow in a deeper, more meaningful way.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've cultivated in our friendship.
Let's talk about that for a second, because
yeah.
I do think that a lot of people wish that people in their lives would change.
Yep.
And instead of actually, so you are creating an opportunity for me to be honest and authentic and share my truth and my expectations, but then also my belief of what I need from you.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do that, the relationship fizzles. It just does. It loses clout. It loses movement. It loses momentum. It loses connection. And I think a lot of people they're looking at someone else, blaming them instead of actually leaning in and saying, hey, this is what I need from you.
Yeah. I mean, I put here just like allow people to make their own decisions. Like that's how they make them tell you the what and why.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you could understand the what and why, right? Instead of like telling them what to think, like, man, you could really expand one, your perspective. And then two, you're actually going to love them, appreciate them, help them understand more, and then how you can support them. Just because like you've showed up with many different things, and I have done this with customers, is like, man, how can I support you? I'm doing it now with my wife. We've been married 15 years and I'm trying to understand, our youngest is going to go to school full time in the fall. And she's brilliant. She's way smarter than me. She was 4.0. She has a master's degree, emergency medicine. And over the 12 years of having children, right, she stepped back and she's been the nurturer and the homemaker. And she creates a beautiful ambiance for us all to grow in. But she has a lot of bandwidth coming back up in the fall. And I've been just cultivating, like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Like, not just,
if you have people in your life that you love and you want to keep them in your life, how do you invest in them?
Exactly.
By being a mirror, by being a window, by asking the questions of how you can best support them.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
And it's, me and you have talked about it, like, it's humbling. It drives insane amount of gratitude.
Yep.
And it also is what drives the most innovation, okay, coming from a Amazonian culture where we are, like Jeff Bezos, we can see a lot of the stuff he studied, but his was like, I want people to be able to fail, because if you're not failing, it means you're not trying or pushing the limit
Right.
on how innovative this culture can be, whether that's in a relationship, as in a family, in a relationship, in your businesses that you run. But like, man, if it's like you have to show up and hit 92% or 100% every time, then you're actually missing out on innovation in your marriage,
via
your
fear,
children,
via rejection, via whatever the
all the
outcomes
low
will be.
vibes, all the low wavelengths,
Mhm.
all the low negative frequencies that we've discussed.
So there's a statement you'd always say too that I remember when I was like, I always come to you with knowledge and wisdom and, hey, can you give me ideas in this? One, I think that everybody needs someone in their life that they can just talk to, someone they could tell, like, this is what I'm doing, this one. If you don't have someone in your life, you need that. You've been a very powerful piece for me on that, of just a voice of reason.
Yep.
There was a time when I was saying, I want this thing, and you stop me and you're like, I was talking about a person. I don't know what I want from this person. You're like, the hardest thing to know is what you want. So how do people find out what they want? Because remember that it was a conversation, there was a domain. You're like, well, what do you want?
Yeah. I think it starts, I was actually just talking to somebody about this. In this environment, understanding what you want is really connecting with your spirit, right? And it's understanding that. And what does that mean? It means this whole construct I've realized in culture and technology is to distract you. TV shows, TikTok, Instagram, the amount of time you're on your phone. Go look at how much time you spent on your phone.
It's ridiculous
like,
for me.
How do we know, right? And then we're not even layering on emotions, right? Which is your feelings. And those are good things, they're good indicators, but they're not the true core essence of, like, what do you want? What at the end do you want to accomplish? What do you want to be remembered for? One of my favorites, right? The Gladiator quote, what you do in this life will echo in eternity. Like this is the essence. Like, you can't figure this out looking at your phone.
No.
You can't figure this out watching TV. You can't. Here's the deal. I love music. You've challenged me on this music thing. It's emotional. Man, I can cry. I can laugh. Turn off Spotify. Turn off.
It's a lot of noise.
Like, you can't get
dopamine.
You can't get to what do you want? And like what is it? Have you written it down? I mean, we're going to go Gary Budzinski here real quick.
Oh, gee.
Okay. We're going to go like mission, value, purpose.
MVP.
Like, it's like, get the card, print it on the keychain when those things were cool.
Yeah, I remember the keychain.
Write it down.
Purpose,
the biblical standard, like, make the vision plain. Write it plain on the tablets. Like, do you have it written down? Well, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, what is it?
Is it definitive?
Is it?
And then you iterate on that, right?
You can always change it, right? Like, what is my mission? To point others to Christ's power and love through being a husband, father, friend, employee, and an example. That's it. Like, if it's not lining up with the mission or the vision, then you don't do it.
Well, there's not a lot of time. There's not a lot of time to be distracted.
No.
Especially when you have a family, especially when you have responsibilities that you've accepted, that you're excited about, that you're doing.
Correct.
And any single distraction from that is like you start detouring far away from that.
Well, and it's hard. Like, I think, like, anybody who's doing something of purpose or of meaning, deeply connected in this world, knows it's very hard, and it takes many hours. You don't stumble. I think the greatest thing I learned, I could say going into my 40s, looking back to people I talked to in our teenage years and even misconceptions I had, is you think that it's just going to happen like in a year or in 2 years or in 4 years.
Right.
Public accounting, I started at PricewaterhouseCoopers, right? And man, I hated it. And it was the biggest grind. And you're like, how does this play into the bigger thing? But like, it teaches you to stay committed.
Right.
It teaches you that the little things matter.
Guaranteed, if you didn't do some of those things, then you wouldn't have checked the box of what you didn't want to do, or the people that you met, and learning some of the networking, learning how to the grind.
Yeah. And then like that, in those things, you learn that, like, it's in the little things. You have to do it day after day after day. And then it also learns that when things are disappointing or you have setbacks, it's okay. it's okay. Like, you can write that down, you can learn it. But again, having the vision, I think we were very blessed as kids growing up. Like, let's just be honest, like, everyone doesn't start from that circumstance where their parents or their grandparents.
There was incredible structure
Yep.
to be incredibly creative. And the structure taught us systems that are self-replicating in our brain.
Exactly.
On certain
But
levels.
I like to have different people know, whether they're watching and listening to us. Some people I've mentored and I've been with and I've coached, and it's like, I don't have that. Well, guess what? That's okay.
Right.
You can be that first layer.
Right.
I have many friends and many individuals I've worked with, and it's like, you can start that
the first
family.
iteration,
And it's hard
for generationally.
Yeah. And give yourself patience. You know, like, I think in our culture, like, everything's measured by how much money you make and how much difference you make. Like, how quickly can you drive transformational change?
Right.
And it's like, this is a new Western thought, by the way. Like, there was actually a patience in traditionally, and going again back to the natural order of the way civilization and cultures have been throughout our 5,000 plus year history on this globe. Like, people didn't have this we're like, we want to see the number that you're worth and make above your head, and like how many lives you've changed. Like, guys, like that's the outcome. Like, if you can work on this discipline of just like showing up, like, I think people will be a lot more free to like give themselves time. Like, you're the first generation forging this in your marriage, for your kids, at your workplace.
And you can't do 20 of these. I even noticed on your goals and everything, like, it's core focuses, highlights. It's not 35 goals. It's literally, these are the 6 things. So I think that's something that I'm adopting. And it's also not being overly extreme. I'm going to completely stop this or completely stop that. It's like, there's voucher systems, there's bargaining with your brain. You got to create incremental growth and change in certain areas of your life. I want to zoom in on friendship. What do you think the 3 best qualities a good friend provides to create genuine relationship with others?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. Some of my friends were chatting about it, and I was thinking about how even friendship changes over periods of your life, right? I mean, I've been blessed. We've been friends when we were single digits. We've been friends in our teenage years. We've been friends in our 20s and 30s. Now we're going in our 40s, and I think how you show up in each of those phases of life is different, but I think that the most important thing, especially for men, is vulnerability. Like, we have a macho culture about having it all figured out and not crying. And me and you have cried together. Me and my closest friends, I can think of them in the moments, like, we've been sad together. We've been happy together. We've experienced the highs and the lows of life. And I think like that as a foundational principle in friendship is so key, to be multi-dimensional, meaning like, don't just like, yeah, you're going to have a bro where it's like, yeah, we go lift, or yeah, we work together all the time, or yeah, we talk about our families. But when you can cross the spheres.
How do people cross the sphere of vulnerability? What is like, someone wants to do that. What do they do?
I think it's just share something that you are scared to put out there. I mean, we all know where we kind of wall off these hidden areas, the hurts, the pains, maybe a dream,
the feeling less thans. We talk about like the fragility of our brains.
Yeah.
And talking about some of that openly.
And not going with just the braggadocious, who are you, man? Oh, I'm this guy and I did this and
the
I
flexing,
closed these
the making
deals
fun of.
and I know these people and I do these things. Like, I mean, if
your friendships look the same as when you were in your teenagers or your 20s, then you're not evolving, then you're not challenging, then you're not. All right, so characteristic 1, vulnerability. What's some of the other characteristics?
Like I said, multidimensional.
Be multidimensional. Like,
meaning like don't let your friendships stay in single dimensions. Like at work, what does that
I got
mean?
it. Yes,
in the workplace, like, okay, yes, it's very important that we work and we're constructive and we're productive and we do those things. But also, like, man, what's going on at your home front? Like, how do you show up as a father? Like, hey, man, how?
And you may get blocked by some people.
Exactly.
But when you attempt to do the multidimensional, you're basically saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing to the table. Yes. I want to be more than just the thing that we are.
Because we're not just a beating heart. Again, we're a living soul. Like,
Mm-hmm.
think about that. Like, I think so many people just show up and it's like, how can I use, how can, even as a friend, like, how can I help use this person to help me feel good or get further or do this at work or whatever it is. And instead, it's like, if you genuinely just listen or are there for somebody and you accept them for who they are, again, even one of my customers, when it comes down to being productive, you actually are way better and more efficient at doing that when you understand that
When there's
person
a
as
deeper,
a soul
genuine
instead
soul,
of just like of how I can use you or who you know to do that thing. And so I think that
that's one of the things that I struggle to share in my company when I'm talking with my team is like, don't just talk about the tasks, go talk about the vision, go talk about, hey, what are you struggling with? Like really try to break down the levels, because when you have an emotional connection and a personal connection with someone that you're doing professional work with, there's insane velocity. There's an extra attention to detail. There's a ton of unconscious subtleties that come out that are not about human manipulation. It's about doing that from a genuine place because you actually care, because you care about that person. You're going to be spending time with that person all the time, right? So I love what you're saying. That's really good.
Yeah,
so
multidimensional,
what's
and then intentional. Okay, and okay, we all intentional is getting really heavily used, but I want to say that like executives, when they prepare for a meeting, I've noticed at Amazon, I've had the privilege to work with like Andy Jassy, who's our CEO. He kind of replaced Jeff Bezos. He's called on my customer directly, and it's been cool to see they get all this material and they condense it to like a single page on things they're going to cover, and they get intentional. And I got to learn from Dad being an executive, but they're driving to a meeting. They spend 5-10 minutes before every meeting, say, what are the main things I want to cover? What am I going to look this individual in the eye? What are some of the things that I want to make sure that we talk about, the things that we connect on? And they get fiercely intentional. And then I hang out with like,
then when you're on the call, there's no noise.
There's no distractions. There's no and man, if we could do that, if we could spend 5 minutes, 3 minutes before we walk into meetings and be like, okay, I'm going to be with this individual. I want to find out what is the real need? How are they doing? How can I help? What blockers can I remove? Then man, maybe we'll put our phone down. Maybe we'll be a little bit more present. And I understand that it's maybe not realistic to do that for an hour straight or, 8 hours straight. But like even with our children, like this phone, and there's a ton of content now on this thing says, you're not important to anyone else that you're there.
It's so easy to be lazy in these areas.
And by the way, and we're all consciously aware of that. We're all watching that. Like we pick up on body. Like the old thing was like, cross your arms. They're not listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The body language of what the phone is doing is like, you know what? I'm not going to actually give this guy my best either, because this guy's in friggin' La La Land. He's not listening.
Right.
He's just trying to quickly check the box here. And, intentionality in friendship. Show up. It doesn't have to be an hour with friends, but for 20 minutes, keep your phone in your pocket, leave it in the car, connect.
How do you manage the stages of life that you move in and out of, and the prioritization of family over friends and people evolving, and you having like, how do you manage that movement of prioritizing certain people and deprioritizing certain things? How do you manage that? Because there's like a death, burial, resurrection. Sometimes you have to put some things to death or bury it for a season, and it's hard to put some people aside, and it's not personal. How do you manage those? That is not an easy thing to balance.
It's not. And again, I think
you've done an incredible job doing it with love and grace, and not emotionalizing it or blaming. It's like there's a magic there.
Yeah, I think it's realizing that we're not perfect. I used to like come with insane expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned through being married a long time, through having kids in every phase, from infants now to my daughter, who's basically a teenager. I have to like show up and redate her and vie for her attention as a 12-year-old, and I've given myself an insane amount of grace, patience, and continuous learning. I actually don't think I have it all figured out, and I'm excited to learn about each one of those. So as I span across those, like as I span across from showing up at Amazon and having to speak about generative AI and how it can help my customers, to showing up and coaching flag football with my 5-year-old son, which is crazy, way harder than work, by the way. Like, when you're there, put the phone away. Again, be there, prepare, spend a little time preparing. It doesn't have, again, it has to be baby steps, but I've learned that in each one of those phases, that it has to be, you have to be engaged. You have to care to learn. You have to,
you care for the relationship even as it evolves. And that's the thing. Sometimes we've talked and you'll be like, well, I'm just going to say this to that person. And I'd be like, you're going to say that? That's freaking raw. Like, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I'm like, just kind of put your head down. Like, you really hit things directly, though. You're very honest with people.
Yeah, because I think, again, we're in this environment where, like, I'm learning. And, I've been doing this with my wife. We've been really, at 15 years, we've been really kind of sharpening our marriage and working on this thing. And sometimes I'll say things, and now, like, obviously one of my best friends, right? She'll look me back in the face and go, that's not right. You're wrong. And here's why. And I'll just look at her, and I usually don't even say you're right. Sometimes I'm just like, dang, but I'm thinking she's right. And I think that with some of your closest friends, like at customers, they'll do the same thing. Like, I can make an assumption. And if you have a trusted environment where growth and where you're pushing, it's like, well, yeah, I'm trying to get the most out of this relationship and to push us to be moving forward and growing and learning. I'll be wrong sometimes. And I think that that's when you talk about going into that, I have embraced the unknown.
Right.
I think that a big part of the way we grew up and the things that I value is faith. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. And so being okay in unknown, financially, my career, I want to just hit on that, embracing unknown. I left Cisco. I was a technology sales executive, and
you've made a lot of changes, a lot of unknowns.
and we were commission based. Okay, anyone who's gone from a commission base, like, it was, we wanted to see the customer outcomes succeed, but a lot of times it was about how to maximize comp too. Like, that was just the reality. Like, if you know somebody in a commission
quota and commission, you got to hit your numbers so you don't get fired, and you got to hit your numbers to get into a multiplier, and you got to.
And we spent 8 years. I spent 8 years in a commission based role, right? And coming to Amazon, part of what I did was I left commission, and Amazon and AWS specifically had a very, what we could said, customer outcome driven environment, meaning, customer, I'm here to serve your outcomes and help you accelerate them using our amazing cloud. Mm-hmm. And I really was intentional about that. And I think, like, it mirrored faith. Like, for me, for faith, it was like not being so driven by the outcome, but knowing.
I remember you talking about this. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. It's like, I've got a fixed salary. It's kind of weird. Like, how hard do I press or not? I mean, it changes the whole mindset about approaching the customer.
Correct. And again, it goes back to, like, embracing unknown. And I knew, while at Cisco, we had a great leader in John Chambers. Look him up. He was the CEO at the time at Cisco, but he always said this amazing thing. I was young. I was in my 20s, I think, when I started at that company, and he was CEO, but he would say, disrupt or be disrupted. He's like, look, you know how we used to consume videos? Not to say how old I am, but, like, it was Blockbuster. That was my first, job in college. Like, I worked at a movie rental store. People, like, went in, got a friggin' DVD or a VHS, and then they brought it back 2 days later, or you were fined, like, double.
Right.
Like, think about that business model. They didn't evolve. They were disrupted. And that is going to be, change is constant, and it's coming for you. And so I remember John Chambers saying, disrupt or be disrupted. And you talk about, how do I move through these seasons? It's constantly learning and growing, realizing if you don't, then you will become old.
Right. And if you're spending time looking at too many things, watching too many things, and doing entertainment, it's all pleasure. Me and you also talk about all this dopamine. The dopamine overload is so heavy. The reason I try not to listen to music unless it's a reward is because it's an escape. It's a drug. You're going somewhere else. You're thinking about something else. You're feeling something else. When you have the time to think about, well, where do I want to disrupt? What are the things that are the most important to me so I don't get disrupted in those areas? It allows you to prioritize them but there's a lot of unknown in that. There's a lot of embracing mystery and making changes without knowing whether or not that change is going to be what you want.
Exactly. And knowing that you have a gift, right? I think no matter what, I always start with this and saying, every human being has a gift and they have talents that are looking to kind of be given out to your community. They're looking
Mhm.
they're looking to find their way out, to be
Yeah.
to bless other people, to actually, it's better to give than receive. And so helping people connect, again, their mission, like we've talked about, to talk about this unknown, but to say, you know what, you have a gift and talent. What is it? How can you develop it? Can it be a podcast? Can it be teaching? Can it be Sunday school? Can it be, at your local city outreach? There's so many different ways that people that need to get connected to give out their gift and to refine that gift. And
Mhm.
that's the way I love seeing people come alive. And, we did this from missions trips in Haiti.
Yep.
We've done it
Lots of cycles.
yeah, I've done it right here in LA.
We've
And
tested it like
yeah,
hundreds of times across all of these industries and experiences and use cases and age groups. And it's like amazing the impact that it makes.
Yeah.
And the effectiveness that it has.
Yep.
You've manifested it in your life with your gift started, I feel like, with sales, which is really, it's a psychology thing of motivation and convincing people and creating a solution. Now you've evolved that. You have lots of businesses. Do you want to talk about some of that and how you've had to balance all of that, as well as, and I think going into like with the Amazon stuff, you've now going into the delivery of the product at an enterprise level. So I think it's just cool to hear across all those other layers.
Yeah, I think so. I think people see me now, and I've been through many iterations, and I think they're like, you're very like you understand sales and connecting with people. But look, trust is an accelerator. Okay. And I started actually not in sales. I started as an accountant. I got a CPA. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I actually started as a consultant, helping customers build trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you understand trust and someone genuinely trusts you and they think that you have their back and that you're going to actually help them have more trust and build a better connection with their customers, then they buy
Such
from
a
you.
responsibility.
Right,
Yeah.
but then they buy
and
from
pressure.
you.
Yeah.
Right?
Then they buy.
That is so trust,
Now they are listening to what you're saying.
Exactly right. So when I think about all those things and what I've evolved to and what my skill set really is it's really, and look, I haven't been perfect. I think I've had to come through some really hard things where like I was a little selfish. I was a little bit self-serving in different things. And I've turned that knob to what I've learned is that if you genuinely look out for your customer, and again, another Amazonian principle that I've seen, we brag about on the Amazon, cloud, they've had 200 and something price reductions, because we genuinely believe if we can help you save money, then you can get your business done, that you'll bring more business and use the cloud or the platform for more. Guys, this principle that Jeff Bezos dialed in is the same in life. It's the same in relationships.
Right.
If you actually can build trust, genuine trust, and do what's best for others, man, your life is going to be so full of so many rewards, and you're going to feel so full in so many of these things. So it's not necessarily about just what I am as a salesperson. It's what I am in about building trust and doing it the right way. And I've again made
playing
many
the long
mistakes.
game, right?
Yeah.
Not doing the short sale.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the currency of sale. Like if you're doing sales, the currency of that talent is building trust, building real relationships. You can't lose doing that. Like that's the thing that's going to take you far. It's remarkable to me how quickly people will sell themselves short on their relationships and tell on themselves, right? When you're really good at relationships, you can actually really quickly see when things are misaligned.
Yeah.
What do you look for, and how do you make that assessment, and what do you do with that information with people that you love,
I
or
think,
people that you want to be close with?
Yeah, I think it's I'm always expectant. I think me and you were having a conversation recently where love believes the best. And that's a hard thing now. The world is cynical, man. We don't believe the best. Turn on the news, turn on your Twitter, turn on the thing. We don't believe the best. We're like, they're coming for you. They're going to try to get your money. They're going to try to use you, leverage you. So I think you just got to stay patient, and you got to believe the best. This is about customers. This is about your marriage. This is about your children.
It's not easy to stay there.
No, because
and to renew yourself back to that place.
Yep.
How do you renew yourself back to that place when you get to a cynical, dark moment, dark energy, low vibration, whatever the term would be? Like, it happens. How do you revive yourself?
Yeah, again, it's it's really about, for me, it's about a place of prayer. It's about a place of meditation. It's about a place of genuine awareness, right? And for me, that's, in my faith, it's about asking the Holy Spirit to say, hey, where can I improve? Where have I been off? And again, that's, I think so many people are like, yeah, I do that in the morning, or, I did yoga, or I meditated. It's like, no, did you put your stinking phone down? I've been practicing this thing. It's called quietness. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've had to work from 1 minute to 3 minutes to 5 minutes. It's awkward, man. Like, it's truly awkward. Like
being in your head.
Watch your mind just try to escape this box of like quietness. But in this place, I think is where you find deep restoration. You remember that deep eternal purpose, but it's typically in the mornings. It can be at night. But really it's a place where you allow the Holy Spirit to come back and tell you, like, hey man, like, you were probably a little negative here, or hey, you took a hard stance there and you're off, dude.
Right. And for people that don't have the context for what that may mean to you, it's the inner voice.
Yeah.
It's your inner voice. Yeah. It's that pure inner voice.
Exactly.
Right? It's listening.
Yep.
And it's not easy to hear that, though.
It's a frequency
it's
of
not
love.
The voice that says,
it's
destroy that person and
exactly.
dominate this motherfucker who's doing this and make them pay. That's not the one.
Yeah, you controlling people is not the answer.
No.
Like, I mean, we can look throughout history and through civilizations rising and falling. Like, controlling people is not the answer. And I think when you can come and be patient, expectant, like, look at, like, people are running short on self-belief right now. Okay,
yeah.
They're running, like,
things are fragile though.
They're fragile.
And I always say there's like a membrane, and it's a thin membrane where people crack.
Yeah.
But life's hard.
Yep.
Say that last part.
Like, they're running short on self-belief.
People are running short on self-belief.
Yeah, and they're looking for.
What does that mean to you, and what's creating that?
Yeah, they're looking for oases or wells, right? I mean, again, there's a lot of shortcuts. Like, again, I'll bring it back to, like I talked about, natural order. Look, there's a lot of, it's cool to like see the health and wellness thing, like in culture right now. It's like really coming on strong, but people are going back to basics. Right. They're like, oh, we want to kill our own cow and get our own eggs and do their own thing. But like, that's because they learn, like, processed shortcut food is not real. It doesn't sustain. There's no like real, like, micro and macro nutrients in it. So like, yeah, it will get you a quick fix, but it will not sustain. And so it's the same in self-belief. The phone, watching TikTok, it feels good.
Even though short-term success of thinking you're having money and that's going to do something for you, getting a raise, these things don't check the box.
They don't.
On self-belief.
Correct.
What do you think are the things that give you self-belief?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's going back to the first topic, purpose, who you are, what your gifts are, and what your
having some type of intention of who you want to be and what those
and what you can be for your community, your tribe, your people group, wherever you're located. Like, you have a specific purpose in that, and just not getting so distracted with what everyone else is doing, but to just bring your best and to see that and to give that and to hone your craft on whatever that is. And it can be teaching young kids, it can be helping older people, it can be showing up and.
But man, if most of your life is just about you, it is incredibly lonely if you're staying in that space.
Correct.
It's remarkable how much joy is given when you are giving, when you are making sure that your goals are not just about your bottom line, paying off your debt, paying off your home, making this money, having this one, and having this new car. It's like, it's exhausting. What? Let's talk about peace for a second. You've lived in parts of your life where it's absolute chaos.
Yep.
And actually segmenting your life, there's many times where Mondays are just chaos.
Yep.
But life gets chaotic. I'm talking about traumatic things, health things with family, like stuff happens in life. When that chaos comes, how do you get peace back in your life? What are some of the practices that you do?
Yeah, I think like realizing that you're, again, not going to have it all figured out, embracing unknown. I mean, at work, I've had to practice this, right? I mean, I work on a global team. So, I mean, when I wake up, Eastern time, the EMEA team has already been working for 6, 7, 8 hours. Right. So I'm typically walking into fires as soon as I flip over in my bed and I turn on my Slack, right? And so just realizing and giving yourself a pace, like, hey, the urgency is not as urgent as you think it is. To actually slow down, calm down, to do this, right? So that piece comes from like, you have an expertise, you have a skill set, you're capable.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let the emotion knock you to and fro too hard. Calm yourself.
Stay consistent on a process.
Exactly, right? Like, stay committed to that craft. I mean, going back to my Cisco days, we did a training out in Vegas, right? And it was an old military training. And he was like, look, like, you're so focused on hitting the bullseye. He was a sharpshooter. So you're so but you know how you actually get better at hitting the bullseye with consistency? He was like, practice your reps. How are you breathing before you pull that trigger? How are you pulling the trigger? How are you applying the squeeze to the trigger? Which way are you lining up your eyes? Like, right. So this repetition of, again, formation mattering, how you show up to that meeting, to these things in your marriage and with your kids, at the workplace. There's a meeting. It's an urgent meeting. It's a quick email. Maybe you shouldn't respond right away.
For sure.
Like, come on. And most of these people, we know it and we still do it.
Right.
Maybe you should wait 5 minutes. Maybe you should write down your initial thoughts and then like let it sit for 5 minutes. Me and you've talked about this.
This is my favorite thing, actually, is you write it up and then you just let it sit there. It's amazing how many times you iterate on that message to actually get it to the version that's digestible, to get the outcome that you want and that they're going to be that people are going to be excited about.
So this is how you get peace, right? Like, people don't understand, but like, you have to practice.
Right.
So how do you get peace? You practice. You're slow. Mm-hmm. You're not reactionary. You're actually in control of the response. And guess what? You're not going to be right every time. But you know what? I think you're going to best represent your heart, which might not be perfect, but you're going to best represent it. Mm-hmm. In those urgent meetings, in those tough situations. You're going to show up for your team and they're going to be like, wow, that was tough. But like, I think he said what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And he actually represented what was the best path forward for us.
That's great. I love that. I mean, even in a meeting recently, you have to share your intention after, because when you're driving super hard in the paint, sometimes you look like a taskmaster. You bring peace back into a meeting by being like, hey, I want you to be aware of why this is happening this way, which taking perspective, drawing out. And it's not easy to do that in moments, though, when tensions are high, when conversations are critical, when there's disagreements, there's going to be a disagreement. Yeah. And that's where, a lack of peace often comes from moving too quickly. That's the truth. Like, I get a lot of lack of peace when I don't pull back, know what I'm trying to get, know what I'm wanting, know what I think other people want, and then delivering it that way. That's Bezos says that actually too. Yes. Stress isn't from working hard.
It's from not being prepared.
It's for not being prepared, right? Yeah, he talks about.
So I wanted to, as we're talking about a lot of these things, it's been really exciting as older brother. I've seen you through all these iterations, whether a lot of your past endeavors and businesses that you've sold, that you've given away, that I've seen you've launched different people who've gone on to do great things, other leaders. But it's exciting to see, like, in hypermarket, we've talked about a lot of things, but like, you're taking an unknown space in crypto and in financial markets, and you're building a deep trust, a place of innovation, a place where people can come and be expressive of who and what they are and what they're trying to sell. And you're starting
manifest that in a digital product,
and you're doing it exactly as a service. Mm-hmm. You're taking that unknown, that scariness of like, you remember, like, let's just think about really what is it? It's next iteration of eBay meets Venmo meets creative space, like
meets Shopify,
Pinterest, all these things. You're kind of bringing it together. And man, remember like 5-10 years, like PayPal, you got scammed. Yeah. Right. And you how was PayPal linked with eBay, and was it the right one? Where are you sending your money?
Yep.
Like, that was like the year.
Is this a real person? Is it a real product?
And now there's this like next iteration that creators and individuals, like including myself, I'm going through the process now to get things listed. I love to travel. My family loves to travel, and we're listing, just cool little itineraries that my kids are building together on. You got to see this.
Well, no one does trips like you, bro.
Yeah.
Only person that does trips like you is Karen Budzinski, the mother. So yeah, keep going.
No, I'm just saying. So it's exciting for me to see, like, as you're beginning to develop hypermarket, there's a super need here for how creators and how people are doing things that you can simplify, build trust, and create a safe place where that natural expression of who and what people are can be sold, monetized, safely distributed, grown, different things like that. So maybe just talk to me about, like,
the psychology.
It's super cool. It's like a little bit of a lot of who we are and some of these foundational principles about that.
It's funny because on my journal, I write down, like, I just take time sometimes when I'm in a plane or through different cycles in my life where I write down audacious goals, audacious ideas, things that I would love to accomplish, like have a SaaS product one day. I wrote that down years ago. I didn't even know what the heck SaaS meant. Like, be in the middle of money transmitting, money service business, whatever that may be. Like, be in the middle of letting people buy crypto, letting people buy a Bitcoin, like empowering that, helping people sell digital goods. So, like, if you distill down hypermarket, what I'm most excited about is commerce, buying and selling. There are buyers, which are consumers, and the people who are really excited are the sellers. The sellers are providing a service to buyers like me who bought these pants. These pants have changed my life, dude. And I don't say that lightly. They've automated all my comfortability. Like, so powering commerce is one of the most exciting things. We have some Airbnbs, Liz and I, and they've stepped towards powering commerce through a trust layer. When you go on Airbnb, you're going to have a home at some level of standard, right? And if not, someone's going to rent it. They're going to complain. They're going to get their money back, and Airbnb is going to protect them. You know that Airbnb is not going to let some serial killer rent their home to you because they check the identity. They create all of these layers. That doesn't exist in seller marketplaces right now.
It's really good.
If you go on Poshmark and you're selling a physical good, you don't know if this person is legit. You don't know if the items they're selling are legit. It's very hard to see if they've been verified as real human beings in America, the United States. And some of these trust layers matter. So the idea of powering commerce through a trust layer on Airbnb, you become a super host. Now you know that person's not going to cancel on you. So we want to create that in the seller market, like from the youngest of pulling Garmins out of the trash and selling weight machines that I would find on the road. Like, imagine people who are hustling. It's very hard to, like, sell this pot, right? And, like, fulfill this physical good. This thing is heavy. It's easy to break. When I ship it to you, I got to get the right foaming and padding. I got to know your addresses. I got to confirm all that information. But digital goods, dude, like someone building a bicep plan and buying that directly from Arnold, digitally signed, and like following a workout path, following an itinerary. Like, you build the craziest itineraries down to the second, to the T. Who's the translator? Who's your guide? How you find, right? Having all of that stuff to where it's easy for a seller to do that and know that it's legit and other people have bought it. That to me is going to be the most exciting, because then it's like, hey, I want to opt in as a seller. I want people to know my identity. I want people to know I'm a real person.
Yeah.
And those layers, we pull off some of that stuff. It's like game changer.
And I'll just tell you, like, it's been cool just to be involved as your brother and seeing what you're building with hypermarket, because everything I've learned at Amazon and different things is what you're doing is you're creating the space, but it's really about data and it's about software. And no one cares about all that stuff. Okay. But you said there's the necessary means. Seller and a buyer. We call it a producer and a consumer, right? So of that data and software, and you're building this beautiful user interface for creators to take what they naturally do, music and art and like you said, itineraries for travel or workouts or content, any content, and you're creating the data and software layer
that gets it out there quickly
and authentic, and where it's sourced from. Like, people care about where their daggone coffee bean comes from now. They want to make sure that it's not some slave owner in a overseas country. They want to know where it's sourced from. We want to make sure that people are being fairly represented. People care about all that. And in this data and software layer that you're creating with hypermarket,
dude, it's transformational what it could do.
Truly.
Like, I could launch my personal brand, daniel.hypermarket.xyz, or I could launch it at join.danielbudzinski.com. I can control my brand, or I can keep hypermarket in it to keep the people around there knowing that this is legitimately who I am.
Absolutely.
And now I have a virtual identity. Right now I could own that identity on Hypermarket.
And I'm going through the process. It's been very cool to go through the process of onboarding Travel Buds, which is my family's business that sells and does these itineraries. But Travel Buds is listing these up there, and they're like, they look at your articles of incorporation. They're following all KYC, the legal aspect, which is the know your customer aspects. Like, I mean, I just know this early
which
on.
is higher trust for commerce.
Exactly right.
Because where there's trust layers, there's a velocity in systems for commerce. There's
super exciting.
People want to move more money when people know that what they're getting is a real person.
So tell me, like, you're an early adopter in here though. Like, I remember like early adopter buying some crypto and doing some things. Like, there's some fun and challenges that come with being an early adopter to doing this platform.
Dude, this product doesn't exist in the marketplace right now. It 100% doesn't exist. We have a 2 to 3 year moat, which means we're 2 to 3 years ahead of anyone that's doing this right now, straight up, because we're doing it legal. A lot of people have actually gone the illegal route, and what that means is we're going to be able to hold money on behalf of others like PayPal. And to do that, you have to get all these licenses, and there's all this drama, and it could take a customer 3 years to get that. We're simplifying all these steps to like an email and launching a project, but it's been painful, bro. Like, it has been the most painful. I had to say to my team the other day, I'm like, guys, every time, at least be encouraged that you know that very few people have gotten here and chose to give up. And we just keep making hard choice after hard choice. And we talk about this, do the hard thing first.
Yes.
The team has been doing that. And when we get to create this experience, dude, it's going to be I need this product, bro.
Yeah.
I have 3 podcasts, right? The Art of Success, the Dreamcast, now the Wavelength. This is perfect for my podcast. I have the Purpose Workbook, a digital version of that. I can sell that now. I've got like 10 things that I have gaming assets that I want to sell. I have e-courses that I want to sell. You have the itinerary. I realize people don't if they take inventory, they realize this gift and talent thing you're talking about, it can find its way to manifest through a digital good, and you can sell something very quickly and then fulfill it right after. Yeah. So if you talk about side hustles, if you want to actually make money giving that talent to others, the best way to do that is like through your learning, through your education, through consulting hours. You can sell that stuff on Hypermarket.
Yeah. But think about this. And I think you just hit on a really cool thing, doing the hard thing and doing it before it's ready. Like, I mean, I bought some crypto back in 16, 17, right? Like, think about the means that you had to go through back then to get it.
It was crazy.
Like, you had to do this and do that and get a VPN, and then you had to move the money here and there, and then you had to send it here, and then you couldn't even get it
money
off.
in and money out.
And then you had to convert it to 3 different coins.
So we're having to solve all that still right now.
And now
it's brutal.
Now it's crazy. You go on Coinbase, beep, beep, you push your
click
few
3 buttons,
right?
Buttons. And we want it to be button driven.
What you're doing is helping me take my itinerary, have these things, have the content protected, and then I can get my money on my Venmo or even out of my bank account tomorrow. And that is a hard thing, but it's going to be for the next generation. Like, I look at like my daughter and some of these people, they're going to expect that for commerce.
What's Dream State? I'll tell you Dream State for me. Dream State is that we're the most secure, safest, and fun place to buy and sell digital goods. But Dream State is 1 million sellers. Can you imagine if we have 1 million sellers? And after we hit 1 million sellers, then it's going to be 1 million sellers that we help make $1 million. Like, we're going to be helping people leave one job that is a dead end job, and they're going to become entrepreneurs. Hypermarket's going to create first-time entrepreneurs, eighth-time entrepreneurs, first-time $1 million entrepreneurs, first-time $100,000 entrepreneurs. If you can go make 10 more grand, 10 grand buys a lot of things. Like, that's what's exciting to me, because that's them buying experiences for families, people being able to have a sense of identity of that they've done something, they've created this intention. Then it's going to be me working with entrepreneurs. Like, how do I help them get rid of all this business crap and all this and streamline all the ways to like launch a product? That I'm most excited about that, man. And there's a lot of people, dude, working with some pretty cool celebrities, influencers, big brands, all the way down to just general human beings who are like, I've been wanting to do this, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah. And I think like watching what you've done in some of your past companies is one thing that you really get is you're building a capability today, but in the future, and I've talked to you about like your, forecast, it's about tool sets and enablement. Yeah. It's what you do really well. Like, you want to be able to take a celebrity or an influencer or a stay-at-home mom who wants to take her really good craft. You want to give her tool sets. You want to give them tool sets, and you want to enable them to bring that to bear, to bring that to market, to bring that to the community. And,
dude, you know how many projects I hear just die because
Yeah.
they don't have the tools and the
capabilities to
mechanics.
deliver what you're saying is
Yeah,
what you're
dude.
originally doing, but then having tool sets to automate some of this.
Automate,
this
scale
stuff,
it.
Yeah.
That's thanks for
Take
noticing
the picture.
that, dude.
Take the picture here. Do this. Organize it this way. Have you thought about how you can
Well,
take your?
if you have the steps in the system, no one even thinks about it. They just go through the steps, and all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, I have a storefront. I have customers. I have people reselling stuff. I have revenue streams in my life. People are going to wake up, and that's going to be very
awesome.
It's going to be very cool.
Very cool.
That's my mission right now. That's my purpose. Thanks for bringing it to that. And, dude, you've been a huge part of all of this, and you know that. And it's like the iterations of all these life lessons to me are finding someone to do life with. Like, my wife always says this to me, like, oh, you're going to hang out with your best friend again. It's like, yep, we're gonna flow. And I think the encouragement, if someone's listening into this podcast, is like, you got to find someone that you can share your life with, all of your life, opening up areas of your life and you've been that, bro. And I hope that people can continue to like find someone to do that with, because a lot of people don't have that. And they don't know where to start with that. And it's hard to
find. Like we talked about, I would just encourage people to be uncomfortable, to do something that's out of the norm. Me and you find ways to do that. Me and my other friends
always challenging each other.
We push new things. And man, some of my greatest things have come from friends who challenge me and maybe disrupt me and maybe call me out on something in love and in a kind way, but laughing, crying, trying new things, being adventurous.
You always said be comfortably uncomfortable.
Exactly. Disrupt or be disrupted, as we talked about. And just people, I think, genuinely value that. And I think for people who are,
but it's not easy to do. No, that's the thing is,
you have to be intentional. We talked about
that currency. When you do remove the noise and you increase the signal of the intentionality, you actually are being to someone what no one else is being.
Correct. You're
being a true mirror.
Which is we use the term the human experience, but this is the essence of the human experience.
Hey, when you said that, I just want to let you know how that makes me feel. Hey, when you said that, hey, I wish you could, like, these are things that, like, you slowing things down, not easy to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
very cool. Well, thanks for taking the time, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out here, being in the studio. You've just heard from Jesse Budzinski on the Wavelength podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with others, and honestly, comment, engage, ask the questions. We'd love to engage with you after. Jesse, any final thoughts?
No, just really value you as a brother. I'm excited. It'll be interesting to look back at even this conversation and see how and what occurs next. And I do know it'll be full of adventure. We'll continue to grow. We'll continue to learn. We'll continue to bring others along with us. I think it's just a part of life. And I just really appreciate you, man, and all you're doing. Look forward to seeing how these things launch and where we end up in the next season of life.
Can't wait to see Travel Buds itineraries. Let's go.